Well, hello, and welcome to Stop, Let's Team Up. I'm Ross, and I'm here with a very special guest. Introduce yourself, sir.
I am mostly known as Doc Strange from quite a few different podcasts and running around on Twitter. How are you, Ross?
I'm good, Billy. How you doing? I'm a huge fan of Billy's All-Star Squadron Podcast. It's that's one of my favorite books. It is one of the few comics I have a complete run of still. It's the only comic I still have a complete run of.
Wow.
And it is a treasured possession because, one, they've only reprinted part of it, and they did that in black and white. But it's just, I'm a huge Roy Thomas fan, and I'm a huge fan of your podcast. I'm enjoying revisiting with you as you go through them. I have not been reading along, but I opened the box the other day to sell some issues, and I went something else, and I went, oh man, these are right here. I could read them. It's like, no, I got other stuff I got to read. I got a big giant stack of stuff I got to read. There's a lot of Legion in my future. So, and I haven't done a Legion reread in about 25 years. The last time I reread that, I read it from Adventure 247 all the way through 0 Hour.
Gotcha.
It was the only thing I read for about 3 months.
Yeah, wow. Yeah, so, that's a long read.
Yeah. But we're here to discuss a team-up, a literal team-up. I mean, when I started this podcast, it was going to be mostly super teams, and then I realized there are some great team-up books out there. Brave and the Bold, DC Comics Presents, Marvel Team-Up, and the one we're going to be discussing today, Marvel 2-in-1. And we're going to start with, we're going to talk about Marvel 2-in-1, number 1, The Thing versus the Man-Thing. And this comic has a special place in my heart, but I'm going to let Billy go. I'm going to ask Billy the question I ask everybody is, what got you into comic books?
So definitely I was a huge fan when I was very young of, comic book characters, but in animation. But then a trip to the local library on one Saturday, I discovered a hardcover, and I believe it was a library edition of the DC superheroes. I think it was the Origins or something like that it was called, where it showed you the golden age origin of Superman, Batman, Wonder Woman.
Yeah, I had that trade back. Yeah, I know exactly. It was a Christmas present from my big brother, who was my pusher. Here, the first one's free, buddy.
Yeah, well, that's how it works. But that's how I got into comics when I was that young, and I read that book literally dozens of times. I would go to the library and just pull that book off the shelf and read it, or take it home and read it. I was more of a fan of going to the library and reading stuff, because if I took it home, I didn't know that I would be able to get it back in time, and then you got to pay a fee. So I just would go to the library constantly and read books, and that was always at the top of the list. And then just an animation guy for a long time until I was old enough to get a job and start earning some money. And, then I started just dove head straight into comics, and just in every direction. Spider-Man and X-Men first, and then after that, just everything under the sun. But, yeah, this Man-Thing has always been one of my favorites.
You're into the supernatural. I want to say horror, because it's more a supernatural.
Oh, yeah,
characters.
Love that stuff.
Yeah, my brother's bigger on that. I'm not. There's stuff I've read. My story with the one we're about to do is, when I first started collecting comics, my brother took me to this little, where I grew up in Northern Virginia, there's a place, it wasn't called Thieves Market, but it was similar to that place. So my brother took me to this place, and the inside was a stall, and it was called the Comic Shop, run by this wonderful couple, Bill and Denise Johnson. And that's where, he had comics, my brother, and the collection was ours, really, for a long period of time. Then we just kind of split it in half, and I took the half that I was actively buying. But I started to do back issues, and this was like 1970, it's got to be like 75 or 76.
Okay.
So, there weren't, comic shops were just starting to pop up. And my brother had most of the stuff that he had gotten, but I started to buy, we don't have this, and I would buy back issues. And I wanted to have a complete run. And I loved the team-up books, all of them. I loved all 4 of them, because they were a great way to get a variety of characters. Oh, yeah. And I like to be introduced to, I wanted to see the other characters, but I was an Avenger fan and a Legion fan. I was a team book fan. But I put together this nice run of Marvel 2-in-1, and then they had a little comic show where like 5 or 6 dealers were set up in the corner, and I remember going through it, and they had, this was it, the only one I needed, Marvel 2-in-1, and I spent like 2 weeks allowance on it. I think it was like a whole $10.
Wow.
And it was in mint condition, beautiful bag boarded. I read it that day when I got home. My friends were like, "Aren't you going to read it now?" While we were eating our pizza at the little pizza place that was in this place. I said, "I'm not putting dirty hands on that comic."
No way.
So, but I loved it. And I think that was one of the few times I read it. I mean, I loved Marvel 2-in-1, and I read it up until it became The Thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I read The Thing a little bit. Thing was a good comic. I just was, at times it's like I got to trim. And since it wasn't a team-up book, and I love this, I think was in some ways, my favorite team-up book for a long time, because it had a good run of really great creators on it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, Perez drew it and stuff like, Perez drew
some.
Yeah. Byrne drew some. This issue we're gonna talk about Gil Kane. So, but we're gonna step out, and then you're gonna hear my little synopsis of this comic, which I'm gonna record separately, so Billy doesn't have to listen to me mess it up. And we'll be right back. Marvel 2-in-1, number 1, Vengeance of the Molocule. The Thing is on his way home, and he sees a magazine cover featuring the Man-Thing in a small bus station. Upset by the presumed plagiarism of his name, he decides to travel from Florida to New York City. Meanwhile, on another planet, where the Molocule Man has been banished, he's talking to his son about how he wants to avenge himself on the Fantastic Four, and then he dies. The son, or construct, undergoes a process to give him his father's, the Molocule Man's, powers. He attempts to teleport to New York City, but instead appears in Florida, in the Everglades, face to face with the Man-Thing. The Thing arrives and is surprised to see Molocule Man. He charges the villain, but the Molocule Man uses his wand to transform the Thing and the Man-Thing back into their human form. The two men are believed to be human again, but realize that they must still stop the Molocule Man before he destroys the Fantastic Four. They catch up with the Molocule Man in Citrusville, where he is destroying the city and torturing the inhabitants, turning one man into a likeness of Mr. Fantastic, which kills him. The Molocule Man notices that Ben Grimm and Ted Sallis are more compassionate and driven to stop him in their human forms than they are more monstrous, so he transforms them back the way they were before. It is his wish to see the two destroy each other. Thing punches his fist through Man-Thing and withdraws a fistful of muck. He hurls the slime at the Molocule Man, striking the wand. This cosmic device flies from his hand and rolls some cracks in the wreckage. As the wand holds all the Molocule Man's power, he ages acceleratedly like he would in the alternate dimension and dies. The Thing recovers the wand, but to no avail. It will not change him back or Man-Thing back into the human form. So this issue is, hold on a second. I'm going to do a trim here. Mm-hmm. Because I meant to give the basics of it before I did the synopsis. All right. So let me give you a little the basic information, and then I'm going to go into a little synopsis of this book. It is Marvel 2-in-1 number 1, release date August 9th, 1973, cover date January 1974. It features the Thing and the Man-Thing, like the cover says. And the creative teams are it is written by Steve Gerber. I had forgotten that. Mm-hmm. Penciled by Gil Kane. Inked by Joe Sinnott. Colors by Joe Russos. Mm-hmm. Letterer Gene Izzo. And editor Roy Thomas. Mm-hmm. All right, we're going to insert the thing there. Well, we're back. Let me start here. I want to say something. I forgot it was written by Steve Gerber.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he did a few of these early issues. And
did he do two of the Marvel features that led into this?
I think he may have done those as well, but I definitely know he did the first few of these Marvel 2-in-1s, because for the longest time I didn't have issue number 1 here, but I've had issue 2 for a long time, and I know he wrote that one. And I'm a huge Steve Gerber fan. There's a lot of people that are Steve Gerber fans, and you either love him or you don't really care for him. But I love him.
I love him. He has he is that. I think he is. I mean, as Howard the Duck is a masterpiece of satire. Mm-hmm. I think it's probably one of the funniest comics ever. His run on the Defenders. I I really enjoy.
Oh, it's great.
It is. I really, really enjoy it. And I think he found his niche with humor.
Mm-hmm.
But I think he's on par with Roy and Steve Englehart, the team writers back then.
Yeah.
And I like that. I mean, it surprises me when I go back and see that some of these important books are written by him. And I just did a peek. This story figure continues from Marvel Feature 12, and that was Mark Fidrich and Jim Starlin, because it was the Blood Brothers. Iron Man.
Oh, yeah.
So that I should have remembered, because my brother was a huge Starlin fan, so he went and hunted down all the issues that had Thanos and the Blood Brothers when it went to and that ties into, because it all that stuff ties into Starlin's Captain Marvel.
Yep.
But this one's great. I think it's I forgot how well written it was.
Mm-hmm.
And it had a lot, I think, the hallmarks of a Marvel comic, with kind of like, the opening scene where the Thing is talking to the guy in the gas station. You know, it's very Stan. It's very Stan, and I don't mind that, because that was the Marvel flavor. And I really liked that. I really enjoyed that scene where Ben gets mad because someone's using his name, he thinks.
Yeah, it's crazy.
It is, and he gets on the Greyhound bus at the gas station like it's in some old movie.
Mm-hmm.
I just love that, and I liked all the characterizations in it. I mean, what was your take on rereading it recently? When was the last time you had read it before getting ready for this?
It's been at least a couple of years, and I shouldn't wait that long to ever read Steve Gerber, especially some of these oddball things, because I am a huge fan of, the stuff people really remember him for, especially like Man-Thing and Defenders. His Defenders with Sal Buscema is just sublime. But I don't read a lot of the one-off stuff or the little tiny short runs that he had done, and I need to do that more often, because I don't think of it in my head as like, yeah, that's great Gerber stuff, but it is. When you read this comic, it's great. And again, like you said, the premise is insane. Ben Grimm's gonna go, take a bus to Florida to fight a monster because he's trying to, ape his name. It's ridiculous, but it works.
He gets off the bridge, on the middle of a bridge, and jumps and just runs into the Miracle Man II, and the Man-Thing just at an important point. It's that the thing in comics and movies and TV. It's like, well, wait a minute, isn't that a little too convenient? In modern comics, it would take 10 issues for him to get there.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And then they would be talking about, there'd be issues of talking and no plot to. I prefer Silver and Bronze Age comics, for one, that it is the writers play a more important part than I think they do in modern comics. So that's my take.
Yeah.
I'm drawn to writers. People go, don't you always buy it for the artist? I will. Sometimes I'm more for the writer.
Mm-hmm.
And like Gerber, I love Gerber. Huge Roy Thomas fan.
Oh yeah.
And as I've said on this podcast before, is that everybody who's doing a team comic post, in the late Silver Age and Bronze Age, they're just doing Roy.
Yeah.
They're not. People go, what's Stan? No, it's more Gardner, Fox, and more Roy. Especially Roy. I had someone tell me Roy's not that important. What about Claremont or somebody? And I said, well, Claremont's just doing Roy.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Oh, Jerry Conway's just doing Roy.
Yeah.
He kind of fine-tuned the soap. I won't say soap opera, but it is the soap opera aspect of.
Mm-hmm.
You have to have subplots going on in the background.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Or it's just we team up and fight like a Golden Age comic.
Yeah, I mean, Roy to me is extremely important, because not only did he create some characters that are still, around and a big deal today, but, just his style of writing. And then not only that, him as an editor at Marvel, I think, is extremely important.
Oh, my God, yeah.
Yeah, he really let the guys, as long as he saw you were a competent enough writer to write a decent story, he let you go. He was very hands-off. And to me, that led into a very, very creative period for Marvel that I think is great.
It is, and you got to think of the guys that came out that he was editing: Len Wein, Steve Gerber, Jerry Conway, Steve Englehart. And that's just the ones that I gravitate to. And look at, I mean, and they've all had huge careers. Look at Jerry Conway. Law and Order had been on about 20 years before I saw his name in the credits and realized it was the same guy.
Yeah.
That he's been script editing Law and Order for 25 years. And that's, it's my wife's comfort show. My comfort show is Doctor Who or Star Trek. But, they all have progressed to do other things. And great things. I mean, Len Wein became one of the great comic editors.
Yeah, for sure.
I mean, he was a nurturer. He nurtured talent.
Yep.
And Marv Wolfman. He did a little bit for DC, and they, did some massive editing to a story that he wanted to do, and he went to Marvel, and it was required reading in my household, Tomb of Dracula. My brother was like, if you're going to read any of them, any of the supernatural stuff, you're going to read Dracula, because it's a guy named Marv Wolfman and drawn by Gene Colan, who I knew because I had read Colan's run on Avengers with Roy, and I was like, I've always loved Gene Colan. So.
Oh yeah, he's my favorite.
Is he?
Yep, my favorite
love
artist.
His stuff. He can do anything. I forgot when I bought the Hawkeye Epic Edition, and it had a 3-issue run of his where Clint is just become Goliath, and you find out about swordsman and him knew each other,
right?
And he had a brother. It's that where Roy fleshes out Hawkeye, because Hawkeye has no backstory.
Yeah.
And in 3 issues, and it's just beautiful and it's vibrant. And I forget who the colorist was, because I love Gene. I really loved his Nathaniel Dusk.
Right.
Yeah, his detective stuff and the little darker stuff, and I loved. And he was writing Batman, and he drew Batman for a long time when I was a kid.
Yeah, he did. I have one of the trades that has a good bit of that stuff, and it's great. Love it.
I think it's a forgotten, a great era that is somewhat forgotten. But like as I told Billy before, I will go off on a tangent. Well, that was a tangent. But I love the story in this one. It's a lot of fun, and I don't think anybody really writes one and done stories really anymore. But they were a staple of comics.
Yeah.
For a long time. The teen books at this point would have ongoing plot, but you would have you had a beginning, middle, and an end, even if it continued into the next story. But these one and dones, and I think that's one reason I like the team up books, because you could read it, and that would be the whole story. And this one is so tight. And I love the art. I don't think I've ever. Didn't remember this, but I love inkers, and I have to explain to friends of mine who are newer comic fans. Well, they're just tracing it. It's like, no, you have no idea what they're doing to it. Especially in the old day, because if you knew who your inker was, you drew to their strengths and or weaknesses, and they could really screw it up. But I don't ever remember seeing Gil Kane inked by Joe Sinnott before.
Boy, yeah, I'm not sure. I mean, Sinnott to me is one of the great inkers of all time, and I love his work in this book, because sometimes for me, Gil Kane, I love his Silver Age stuff, but in the Bronze Age, to me, it depended on his inker. I love his covers, but the interior sometimes I'm just kind of like lukewarm about. But when it's Joe Sinnott inks,
they dumped way too many times. I think they put Vinnie Coletta on him.
Yeah.
And Vinny, I try not to be mean, but he really does damage to people's art. He doesn't work with the right people. He works with the right people. He doesn't work with some people.
Yeah.
I saw him a lot I'm a huge George Tuska fan. And I didn't mind him on Tuska.
No.
But I was also like going, well, what did he erase?
Yeah. Yeah. That was always the big thing. He got handed stuff, I think, since he could be handed something on a Friday and have it done by a Monday. They used him for expediency a lot. But like you said, if you're a pencil artist and you handed these gorgeous pencils and backgrounds and this and that, and then you saw the finished product, I totally understand why some of those pencilers were kind of, pissed off about it.
Yeah. And it was, it is what it is, and I mean, and I do like him on. He did some Western stuff on My Brothers Would Get. I remember it being it was okay.
Yeah.
But I hated when I would see him on something because, like, I mean, I love George Tuska Iron Man. That's some of the early Iron Man I read, so I have a soft spot for it. And he would be on it every once in a while, and he was okay. He was good on that. But I didn't like him when I would see him on Kane.
Yeah.
Because I like Kane on Kane when they would let him ink his own stuff. That stuff's amazing.
Yeah, that's good stuff.
And his but I was more familiar with him for DC.
Yeah.
Because he was Green Lantern for a chunk when I was a kid, and Sword of the Atom.
Yeah, that stuff's great. That Gil Kane on Green Lantern. Oof, that stuff's fantastic.
Yeah, he's built for Green Lantern. That's kind of my go-to book. And he did a lot of Spider-Man.
Yeah.
About the same time Ross Andrew was doing it, weren't they both on the book or on different books at about the same time? Or did he do? Man, I'm trying to remember. It's been so long, but I think he did a lot of the Marvel team-ups.
Yeah.
Gil did a big chunk of those.
Yeah, and then Gil, he was on Spider-Man. I think Death of Gwen Stacy. I think that's that Gil Kane era right in there.
Yeah, it is. It's before Ross Andrew, isn't it?
Yep, and then Andrew came after him, I believe. Yeah.
Yeah, where Peter Parker's are all of a sudden he's 6'4" or something.
Yeah.
He's so tall.
He's a big guy.
But I like the art in this a lot. I really did. Miracle Man 2, the new Miracle Man costume was very 1973. It was a little, I think the original costume's a little bit better design.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, but it was what it was. And this was a character who had, hadn't been around in a while.
Yeah.
At this point, and I went into the online and saw stuff about where he went, and then when he comes back is an Avenger issue years later.
Yeah, he disappeared for a couple of times. Yeah, he got the Watcher, I think, sent him off to some crazy other planet, and then you saw the original one actually die in the first couple of pages of this. When he's on this other planet, he has his son there that takes over, but he somehow comes back, like you said, in Avengers much later.
Oh yeah, I did a little homework, and they say that the son is really just another version of him that he created, and it's like someone going, okay, deciding they didn't like that Steve gave him a kid, and so they the retro-conning that happens constantly when I hear fans complain about, well, they changed it. It's like, it's been 15 years. It's about time, they're going to change it.
Yeah.
It's like now we're in this constant era of rebooting, which is just that taken to the far extreme. It's like every 10 years they're going to do a reboot.
Yeah. I do like when the Molocule Man here gets all pissed off and he has, Ben and Man-Thing changed back into their human forms.
That's so cool.
Yeah, and then he really wants to do is get revenge on the Fantastic Four because they're the ones that did in his father, if you want to call him that, and then he can't get to them, so he just changes some bystander on the street using the wand into Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, and it looks like he kills the guy. I can't believe it.
Yeah, I think he stretches him and leaves him stretched.
Yeah, he's stretching and stretching, and then you see it almost looks like an explosion or something, but he says death. And he's like, I can't believe it. And then Ben's like, he flips out like, you just killed an innocent guy. And I'm like, wow, man, a lot of difference between comics from back in the day and comics now, man. You wouldn't really see something like that now, I don't think.
I know, and this is comic code.
But
I mean, how did it? Normally they wouldn't let you kill on panel, right?
Yeah, I didn't think so either. But I mean, 73, I think maybe it was loosening up a little bit. So
yeah, they're pushing and if anybody's going to push the envelope, it's Gerber.
Yeah, oh for sure.
Because I mean, with Howard, when he gets to Howard, he's not shying away from anything.
No, not at all.
That is, I've tried to me and my wife were thinking, my brother-in-law was traumatized as a child by watching Howard the Duck. He was little, and he saw the monsters in the film.
Gotcha.
So I was like, but we bought a copy of it, and me and my wife watched it. And she was like, and I was like going, it is so much better in the comics. So much. And I tried to explain some of the satire, like the street cleaner who ends up being Anita Bryant.
Yeah.
under the orange mask,
Mm-hmm.
And stuff like that. But this Gerber does like to push things, and I mean, but this is such a very Marvel one and done story, and it's just so much fun that I like those bits. I like the dialogue. He writes a good Ben.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yep.
Yeah, Ben's tough to write. I think Ben's harder to write than any of the other Fantastic Four.
Yeah. Oh, for
Because
sure.
and the one thing I liked about Marvel 2-in-1 was it was always very consistent on how Ben was treated.
Mm-hmm.
And he is a good. I mean, this book lasted 100 issues.
Mm-hmm.
And then how long did the Thing last? Another 100?
No, I don't think that one lasted that long.
Okay.
No, yeah. I mean, I have a few issues from that one, and they had some good creators on that one as well, but I definitely want to dive into getting more of those because the ones I do have are pretty good.
I like Ron Wilson was a penciler for a lot of that,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm a big fan of Ron Wilson's work.
Oh, yeah.
As a kid, I didn't really appreciate it, and I went back and, when the 2-in-1 ended and Thing, and he was going to go into it, it just, I don't think he wanted more. It just seemed he could focus on it because he was helping to design, kind of make the book his.
Yeah.
It was more like we're going to tell an arc, we're going to do this, and it was wonderful because he did a lot of the later issues of 2-in-1, and they were nice, they were fun.
Yeah.
I mean, I have some of that in trades. I got the hardback, the 3 Thing hardbacks, which are mostly 2-in-1 reprints, like the Serpent Crowned Affair, the one with the Liberty Legion.
Oh, yeah.
And I forget what the third one. Oh, the third one is Project Pegasus.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's probably the most famous one.
Yeah, well, it's Perez, and I remember I traced that cover with tracing paper so I could, I was a terrible drawer, but I wanted I loved those ones. I used to reread. Perez was like the first artist that kind of clicked with me and went, okay, this is my artist.
Gotcha.
Yeah, and then I went back and I fell in love with other things like Kurt Swan. Yes, what was it, 2 days ago before we were doing Swan's birthday, and I was like, oh, my Superman.
Love his stuff.
So, yeah. But back to again another tangent. I'll be editing like crazy. This issue, I really like this. It one and done. It gets to the point. I don't know that much about Man-Thing other than he pops up when you need someone to get you to another dimension.
Yeah. Gerber wrote a ton of the first solo series. I think he wrote the whole thing actually, and then he didn't write the second volume. That was a lot of Chris Claremont in there, but that first one is really, really good. There are some good stories in there, but a lot of them are some sad endings for sure. And this one, is a sad ending to this one as well, because the Molocule Man switches the two of them back to being the Thing and Man-Thing, and after his demise, Ben's trying to change himself back to being in human form, because that was his ultimate goal for a very long time. And then he tries to use it on Man-Thing to change him back as well. And, of course, the wand won't work because it's more of a conduit. The power is really in the person. So it's really a sad ending, and Man-Thing just kind of does the old, Incredible Hulk TV show, walking away with the sad music there.
Yeah. So I think I've read a handful of those. Did Plug, who was the artist on those Gerber Man-Things?
Plug started out, Plug, and then I think in the what was that series that led into the solo series? It was I can't remember.
Chiller? Was it Chiller?
No, I think it
Creatures on the Loose?
No, I can't remember what it was called, but that one had some Val Merrick in there.
Oh, I love Val Merrick.
Yeah, and that was really, really good stuff. Like, that's just, again, it's more stuff.
I think the first Howard's a Val Merrick issue.
It probably is. Yeah, I believe
Howard
so.
appeared in that, right? That's where Howard first appears as a Man-Thing comic, correct?
Yep.
Yeah, no, I know exactly which one it is. It is a Val Merrick. The original artist was Val, and not Colin was who did it on the regular book.
Mm-hmm. Yep, you're absolutely right.
Yeah, that they're tied together. I always kind of like that.
Mm-hmm.
And that Gerber and that Defenders Treasury issue eventually brings them into that Defender. So, Man-Thing and Howard are in that issue.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
The
other series is Adventures into Fear.
Adventures into Fear. Okay.
That was it. Yeah.
I love those old 70s Marvel comics. Someone's been posting a lot of where it was the splash page was inside a box on the cover.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And there are a lot of, I remember buying like Marvel Triple Actions back then, and
Yeah.
those, and my brother would have a handful of, and with his horror comics, he was a little less protective. He was like, okay, yeah, but you're not messing up. This is Justice League 25, and where'd you get that? And he goes, you're not reading that. It's reprinted in this one. Have at it. But I like this story was very nice. It was very cool. I felt an emotional connection. I don't know Ted Sallis. I don't know Man-Thing that well, but Gerber, I think that when they're both turned human, I get the thing of Sallis is like, I don't remember anything. I remember a car accident, and how tragic it is when like you said, when he gets turned back.
Mm-hmm.
He's just a mindless creature. It's not like, I grew up a Swamp Thing reader,
Mm-hmm.
and the Swamp Thing always remembers who he is. Does the Man-Thing really? Man-Thing has no personality.
Nope, not at all, really. He's just kind of a, there'll be like a narrator telling you what he's doing and what he may be thinking or why he might be doing this or that. But he's really just like a cipher.
Yeah. Well, Jason Aaron's been using him in Avengers.
Okay.
Like they have, Blade has a little piece of this little mini Man-Thing on his shoulder every once in a while. It's a part of Man-Thing that is, growing.
Mm-hmm.
Because they keep doing all this dimensional stuff. And it was cute for a while. Yeah, and it was kind of cute. It was, Aaron, I'm enjoying this run of Avengers, but it's not the great, that's more out of reflex.
Gotcha.
Because I am an Avengers guy, but I've read worse. I'm entertained. I've read really bad Avengers. There've been some runs where like Avengers 300 where Walt Simonson. I was like, you sure this is Walt write this? This is terrible.
Yeah, there were some rough times.
Oh my God, yeah. Or it's like when the DC implosion. Sometimes you'd be reading a book and then all of a sudden, I was never. My brother was a huge Carrie Bate fan, and I'm not.
Gotcha. Yeah, I haven't read too much of his stuff.
My brother he is a huge Flash fan, and Carrie Bates and Infantino did an incredibly long run of Flash.
Gotcha.
Like a decade and a half or something.
Wow. Yeah, that is long.
And it was and when Crisis came along, that was the first thing they changed.
Yeah.
The company went, yeah, you guys are done.
Wow.
We're gonna go to Mike Barron and whoever it was. But I like that era of Flash, though. I liked Wally. Wally's my Flash. My brother hates that. It turns red when I say that.
That's funny.
So, but overall I enjoy this. As a Man-Thing fan, is this one when you got it that you were like, okay, they understand? Because it was written by the guy that had written most of the Man-Things that you had read.
Oh, yeah.
Did it feel right, like you could insert this somewhere in the run?
Yeah, absolutely. They did not. Gerber, he didn't have too many, continuing plot threads through, Fear, Adventures into Fear, and the solo series. Maybe from one to the next, and then that was usually about it. But he really knew what he was doing with this character. And a character that doesn't even speak, and you can, do something with that. To me, that shows his talent as a writer.
Yeah. I've always liked that about the character, that he's there and you kind of, and the others interacting just don't understand it. And I like the thing that he burns people using their fear, and everybody has fear.
Yeah.
Yeah, I kind of like that. And this one really worked for me, and I don't really know the character. And that's the other thing, one reason I kind of picked this one is because I remember these books, and especially this one, is they're so well written that you understand the characters.
Yeah.
I know Ben because at this point I'd been reading FF regularly. My brother's I'm not old enough to have any of the Kirby new. But I read the Roy John Buscema stuff.
Oh yeah.
When Medusa was in the team. That's about when I started.
Yep, that's good stuff.
It is good stuff. It's underappreciated, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's that I knew who Ben was. There's a honesty to the characterizations in late Silver Age, early Bronze Age comics that I think sometimes is missing for me in modern comics.
Yeah.
That, they don't take the time to develop a character. So where if I read them, and then a house version that to where everybody's, people complain about continuity getting convoluted and being too much. But part of continuity is also continuity of characterization.
Right.
And in this, under Roy and Stan, and then later Jerry, and all the editors in Marvel, you couldn't do something that was out of character for one of the characters. They would stop you and correct it.
Yep. Like we said earlier, even when Roy Thomas was the editor, he was very hands off. But if he saw you trying to fundamentally change, what a character was about, that would have been a no-go for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you don't reinvent the wheel. You just give them challenges.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's for me in storytelling is I want to see the journey they're on.
Mm-hmm.
I don't really care what the journey is. I've a friend of mine dragged me 2 years ago when it came out, Strictly Ballroom, and he goes, "I want you to see this movie. I think you'll like it. It's about a competitive ballroom dancing in Australia. What makes you think I want to see that?" And I went and saw it, and it's still one of my favorite movies of all time because it's not what the story's about, it's how the story's told. If you tell an engaging story with engaging characters, it's entertaining.
Mm-hmm.
Genre doesn't matter, actor doesn't matter, director doesn't matter, to me. I mean, they matter, but it's the ultimate thing is if I'm going to enjoy it, it's just how you're telling me the story. And I think that's one reason I like this one so much, because I can read a Steve Gerber comic, almost any Steve Gerber comic, and be entertained and enjoy the ride, enjoy the journey. His Defenders shouldn't work. It is, they're battling the bozos, and that is one of my favorite runs. The Headmen are great, the villains, and they're all fleshed out. And in this one is even the guy, the old guy at the gas station that Ben tears up, gets on the bus.
Yeah.
That's a fully formed character, and he's in maybe 6 panels.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Gerber was, and some of his concepts were out there. And it scares some people away, but when you really actually read them, the books that he wrote, it's you. I think most people will enjoy it. I think sometimes people get a little scared off by like, what is it about? And what's this character's name? And it's a little too out there for them, so they kind of don't give it a chance.
Yeah, and it's political. I mean, he is really pushing the limit of political commentary.
Oh, yeah, he was to me, this is something lost on some newer writers, where in the Bronze Age you had people like him that they would get an issue in the Times across, and it wasn't like they were every once in a while, but for the most part they weren't, hitting you over the head with it, like a sledgehammer. They were subtly putting stuff in there and saying, hey, this is something, you need to take a second look at here. And it was always, to me, like him, Don McGregor, those guys, they were real good with it. They were really Jerry Conway, too, like we mentioned. They were really good at that. They could really tell a story where that wasn't a focus, but that was right there in the background. You just had to look. And then, they tried to get you to see things from a different perspective. And I'll always love that.
Yeah, it's like people on my Doctor Who podcast, people complain about modern Doctor the last couple of years being woke. Because they have a woman. Oh,
I gotcha.
And and all this. And I hate to say it, I tell them, it's like, did you not watch anything? There's the third Doctor, the frilly short curly hair, John Pertwee. His producer was a Buddhist. And his script editor was a conservative. And they wrote things about, about the same time this is, where they kind of subtly wanted to tell stories about pollution.
Right.
And protecting the planet.
Yeah.
They just added an alien in it, but it was trying to say, hey, we need to be better stewards of the planet. And I think that's kind of what Gerber does. I mean, Howard the Duck with his anti-gay prejudice in the sweet cleaner character.
Yeah.
It is he picks the villain for a specific thing, but he's basically using it. All prejudice is wrong.
Yeah. Yeah, Gerber was.
And he never names her straight out. He never names the woman he is saying is the street keeper, Anita Bryant, not a very nice person. But he subtly does it. But you've just read 10 issues of Howard the Duck, and gotten a commentary on how prejudice is wrong and dangerous.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
You know, because, there's a duck with no pants. Or did he have pants by then?
I don't think he did. Maybe.
Oh, yeah. The great you have to put pants on him so he doesn't look like Donald Duck. Well, Donald Duck didn't smoke a cigar and date a stripper.
Yeah. I mean, he didn't have a girlfriend that was a woman.
Yeah. Oh, my God. Yeah, I'm not flashing to Leah Thompson. I just saw an article where Leah Thompson is now director. And she's directing two episodes of Picard.
Oh, good for her.
Yeah, I always liked her as an actress. I like to see someone move on to direct. Actors make good directors. Yeah. But Gerber would give you social commentary. This one doesn't have a lot of it. It does have personal commentary about Ben. Ben has the great thing about Ben, and in this one is he's like you said, he's always trying to fix himself. He's unhappy with who he is. Mm-hmm. Even though he's a really good man.
Yeah.
And it's that thing is, I want to be what I was. Mm-hmm. And he never, kind of adapts to the point where, well, people love me for who I am. And it's that continuous journey. Mm-hmm. This one's a little more comedic than others because, I mean, it could get angsty depending on who is writing him. Mm-hmm. Or they would forget about it and then remember it, which was, I think, my biggest thing sometimes in long runs of the FF is one writer would go, I don't really want to deal with Ben lamenting his humanity. I want to deal with the fact that, who was it that decided that, it was Byrne. Sue's the most powerful member of the team. Do none of you get this? Mm-hmm. Yeah. And, stuff like that. But this one, I liked it. He cared about Salas. He wanted to try to, even though he couldn't fix himself, he wanted to see if he could fix this other person that had the same problem. Mm-hmm. And I think Ben's the biggest softie, and I just think it's captured in this one. It was a lot of fun. It was a lot of fun to reread it.
Oh, it was perfect, pitch perfect, and the ending there where Ben, always lamenting his lot in life, he realizes it could be worse, and he sees how it could be worse in Ted Salas and the Man-Thing. It's great. Yeah, great stuff.
Yeah. I'm peeking ahead here online to see did he continue. Yes, he drew they're the same creative team on the next issue.
Submariner, I think.
Yes, it's Submariner, supporting cast Wondar. Mm-hmm. Because the Wondar plot starts does it actually start in the previous issue?
I'm not sure where he started out Wondar, but he's been around for a while. He might have been FF, and then I know he was actually in an issue of Man-Thing as well. And I don't know if it was the Fear series or his own run, but yeah, that he might have been an FF character, I'm thinking, because I feel like he's one of those characters that's just been around a long time. He's more of a, secondary type character, but he's been around for a long time, like longer than most people think.
Yeah. I know, and he was a big part of Marvel 2 and on up through Project Pegasus.
Yep. Yeah, he was one of the main characters in that storyline, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I really miss Silver and Bronze Age continuity.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for sure.
I don't buy. Do you buy a lot of recent comics, or are you mostly back issue?
No, I've been a back issue guy for probably about 7 years now, and I actually enjoy it more. I was sort of getting into a rut with newer comics, and then the price going up, and I just, I thought to myself, I'm going to try for a couple of months to just do back issues, and hey, if I miss the new stuff terribly, I can always go back to it. I know it'll be there. And a couple months went by, and other than missing the routine of going to the shop every Wednesday, I was like, wow, I liked it so much more just getting into the back issues, especially DC for me, because I was a Marvel-only guy for a long time, probably about 20 years. And then I got into DC, so I have some catching up to do. So, DC's like this whole new world to me when you look at the Silver and Bronze.
Yeah, and I think there are a couple titles that I'm getting. I'm getting the Thor title now. I like it. The Iron Man, I like it. The Iron Man's very Silver Age.
Gotcha.
And he's teamed up with Hellcat.
Okay.
And Hellcat is in that first era of Avengers that I read, because that's kind of like I was jumping in and out, and then I got to 150, the Serpent Crowned Affair, the first Prez. I remember my first Prez panel, the Beast bouncing down the street.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
George Prez really messed up by Vinnie Coletta.
Yeah, I have a trade of
But
that.
then I rent back. My brother goes, "Oh, you like him? Here's some Man Wolf." And I went, "Why am I going to read?" Oh, never mind. Shut up. Give me those comics. I
Yep.
want more. I bought when that trade came out. I was like, "What? You're putting out a complete Man Wolf and all the press stuff in it? Now, I want this." But I'm more, and I get Avengers. I'm reading Avengers, and I'm getting Justice League. But I get behind. The only new stuff I really read is some independent stuff. There's a thing called Firepower from Image with Phil Hester art, which I really like.
Okay.
John Jones is doing one called Geiger with Gary Frank.
Oh yeah, he's a good artist. Yeah.
It's a really good. It's very much a love letter to post-apocalyptic Silver Age comics. They even did, because they finished the first arc, they did an 80-page giant with the little checkbox at the top.
Oh, cool.
Then because they're going to introduce their own superheroes from different eras, they're creating their own universe. And Black Hammer, I'm a big fan of the Black Hammer stuff.
Oh,
Jeff Lemire.
Dark Horse, yeah.
That's a great book, because that is a love letter to Silver Age, late Silver Age DC comics and early Bronze Age,
Cool.
and it's a lot of fun. But I do trades, and I'm converted to digital for Marvel and DC for back issues, because I just don't have the room. So I'm looking, I get trades, and like Legion, another trade came out. When I slid it into the shelf, I have in hardback form all the Legion from 240 Adventure 247 through the end of the Great Darkness Saga.
Yeah. Oh yeah. That's a big blind spot for me. I have very few Legion comics. I don't know if I have maybe even 5. So it's a big dark spot for me.
And is that something you've never delved into, or
No,
just too daunting?
Yeah, that was something to me. Didn't even know where to start, and I was just like when I started buying DC, I just thought, okay, well, where should I start? And I was just like, okay, let's start with the big ones like Action Comics, Detective Comics, Superman, Batman. I started buying those, when I would see them here and there, or even off of eBay or whatever. So that's where I started, and then of course, like you and I talked before, I love the horror, supernatural stuff too. So I really started buying those, but those are getting super pricey. Like the back issue market has gone crazy.
It's when I go to my local comic shop, Velocity Comics here in Richmond, they're doing, in the last couple of years, they've started to buy more collections, and collections have become available, and they've said, yes, the back issue market is back, and it's held. The way he describes it really reminds me of it in the late 70s, early 80s ish, before the companies tried to get in on it, and they destroyed it.
Yeah.
When they did, like, we're going to have 14 variant covers. And,
yeah.
Blah, blah, blah. And then, I just didn't think scarcity is what makes the value, not printing more.
No.
But I think, because I have the Generations hardcover for Infinity Inc., and I was like, I'm going to try to sell my Infinity 1, 2, 3, 1 through 4. Because, I've got the hardcover.
Yeah.
Even if I'm only saving up a little bit of space. But they don't seem to be pricey. It's those later issues.
Yeah.
Which I don't have, which is sad. I do not have, like, the last 10 or 15 issues. And I've heard they're insane.
Yeah, I think the print run got so low. That's why those are a little more expensive, the later ones, compared to the newer ones. But thank goodness I subscribed at some point last year to the DC app, and I love it. It's incredible. I love it. It
is. There's big chunks missing in the Golden Age and early Silver Age, which is okay. But the stuff I would want to read, like, I've got all the All-Star. I've got all the All-Star archives. I've got all 13 Legion ones. I got, the 14 Titan ones. Yeah. And then I got all the trades. So there's stuff I'm set on. Like, I've got the Starman, the 2 Starman ones, the original Starman, the Jack Burnley stuff.
Oh, gotcha.
Oh, it's gorgeous.
Yeah.
So good. And I got both of the 7 Soldiers of Victory hardcovers.
Oh, nice.
And that stuff's beautiful.
Yeah.
The art's way better in 7 Soldiers than it is in JSA.
Nice. Oh, yeah, that's cool.
I mean, it is. I don't know why, but it's just over. I mean, I like the early JSA, but I don't really in All-Star. I have to get to the Alex Toth stuff.
Right.
The later issues where it's really a team book, and it's Alex Toth at some point. It's like, okay, I'm good.
Yeah. Hello,
kitty cat. Yeah, I'm a big fan of. I like both of the apps. Marvel did that upgrade to theirs.
Okay.
And it bugged me because I can't do a chronological short of every. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You could put a reading order together just by putting in dates.
Okay.
You know, and I like reading order, and sometimes my memory's not as good as it was. I'm almost 60. I don't remember like the Legion or stuff like that, or Avengers stuff. I could tell you what went where, especially if it crossed over into it.
Right.
You know, I knew that in my head. Why I wasted brain space on that, but it was all in there.
Yeah, right.
Because I'd done a complete Avengers rerun, reread at one point once I had collections and stuff like that. Because before I sold it, I had a pretty good run of Avengers. I think I had Avengers 45 up into the 300s.
Nice.
Some of them are ratty. I mean, I still have my Avengers 105, the first comic I ever read, and it's beat the hell because I've had it since 1972 or 3.
Gotcha.
So. All right. So overall, I mean, I like this comic, even though we've diverged a lot from it. But that's why I wanted to have Billy on to have a guest so I could maybe go into a tangent. I love talking comics, folks. This is available on the app. It has been in a recent Marvel Epic edition. I recommend the Marvel Epic editions.
Those are great
because they are great. I wish I had started getting them earlier. I would love to have all the Avengers ones, but some of those are really pricey now because they reprint everything in order, including stuff when they cross over into another book.
Yeah.
Which they did not do in the Essentials.
No.
Which I liked. I don't mind a black and white comic, and I've got all my Avengers Essentials because that's that's up to 200. But I bought certain strategic epics, the Master of Kung Fu, Volume 1 and 2, but there is a Marvel 2-in-1, Volume 1, which has this in it. It is well worth tracking it down. It's well worth getting on the Marvel app and reading these. These are fun. I recommend Marvel 2-in-1, and I highly recommend Marvel Team Up.
Yeah, if you see an Epic collection come out right now, and it's even of some interest, buy it now because you will be paying double or triple the price once it goes out of print, because I made that mistake with a few different titles. Tomb of Dracula being the one that I didn't even see when it came out, and now you cannot even find a Volume 1, and the Volume 2 is usually, the prices get so inflated, it's crazy.
It's weird. It's the trade backs that are collectible is insane. It's like I'd never realized they had done I thought when they put out the hardcover Great Darkness Saga DC, I thought it was just what I had in the trade back, and I didn't have a lot of money, so I didn't buy it. Didn't realize it had the 5 issues leading up to it, which is really half of that saga.
Yeah.
So I bought a very beat up copy for $11, and with it doesn't have the dust jacket, but I glued up the spine, and I can read it, and it's on the shelf. Yeah. But it's like these epics, like there's some of the Avengers ones. I would like to have all the Avenger and West Coast Avenger ones. I do keep my eye out for the the Master of Kung Fu, because they're putting those out in order, and the same with the Excalibur.
Yeah.
There's a lot of but they're worth getting. They're beautiful, and they jump around, which I like, is that they're not going in order on the longer running books.
Yeah, the only ones I saw that seem to be coming out right exactly in order is, like you said, Master of Kung Fu, and then Conan as well.
There's a lot more Conan. I found a guy on Near Mint Condition who is a YouTube channel that isn't all about complaining, which I find a lot. I find a lot in multiple fandoms. All fandom there's a lot of negative vibes on YouTube.
Yeah.
But he's just going through every hardback. All he does is cover hardback collections and trade backs. And he was talking about some of the Conan, and I didn't read a lot of the Conan. My brother we had Conan in my house. My brother was a big Conan fan, and Roy wrote it. So, and my brother has always read Howard. But like Kurt Busiek did a long run for Dark Horse, which is now coming out in trades and stuff. And I'm a huge Busiek fan. I don't think I've ever read a book by him that I didn't absolutely love.
Yeah, I read some of his Conan stuff, and then I'm not sure who the writer and artist was, but Dark Horse there at the turn of the century also did, not Conan, but Cull, and I thought that was excellent.
Yeah.
Really good.
Yeah, I mean, the last stuff I really read was Thomas and Buscema, which you can't really.
Yeah, it's tough to beat.
You can't beat. It's hard to beat that. So, is there anything? We're about to leave, and give Billy the floor to plug his shows. I recommend his All-Star Squadron, but I'll let him sell himself.
Yeah, definitely. All-Star Squadron is chugging along. We're in. By the time anybody hears this, we're going to be in the mid-40s. Covering it issue by issue. It's an index show, and I've been lucky to have a couple of guys join me. Martin Gray and Sean Ross, who are great. And then, of course, it was, started in the initial there by myself and Herm. And definitely check that show out. It's a really fun show. We try to make it a lot of fun, and that's an endearing run.
It is a joy.
Yeah,
I love it.
Everybody loves that run. It seems to be one of those runs that everybody has nothing but glowing things to say about it.
I know. I thought I was alone in the world. It's nice to hear all the people reaching out to you on it.
Yeah.
Because it was one that I would tell people, it's like, why? It's just, I love the Golden Age characters. I mean, I love, and my brother, the first Justice League I had was a JLA team up. It was Crisis on Earth X. Mm-hmm. And then the 100-page, I love those Justice League 100-page giants.
Oh, yeah.
I've gone back and bought some of those.
Great.
Because you would get a Justice Society, and I read All-Star religiously. It was always, no matter if my to read pile was thick, it was always on the top when I bought new books, because it was Roy doing great comics. I was very lucky, and then when he left DC, he went back to writing Avengers. It was West Coast Avengers, but stuff like that. But I loved that. I loved Infinity Inc. They're just great books.
Yeah, Roy's the man.
Yeah. So, folks, that's it. This is a wrap. I hope to have Billy back on again. I'm avoiding certain titles because there are other podcasts that are doing such a good job, so I will probably not do All-Star for a long time. Because I will just point you in Billy's direction. It is well worth listening to in order and read along. Graham Ward, who follows both of us, he's on Twitter. He had never read Roy, and I got him to listen to your podcast, and he went on Comixology because he's in England, and because they do not have DC app, and he bought the run and his reading along with you.
That's great.
Yeah, and he loves it. He loves it, and I'm trying to get him to read some other stuff, and I think he's reading Infinity now too.
Nice. Yeah, it's definitely Roy Thomas at the peak of his powers, so everybody should be reading that. Oh, yeah,
and I told him when he got to a certain point, let me know when you've got to the Todd McFarlane stuff. And I think he was an issue or two in, and went, oh, wait a minute, this is really good. Because it's the only McFarlane I like is his Infinity
Inc. Yeah, I got you there.
Well, folks, you can find me here. This will go out probably tomorrow, the day after we record it, which will be the 20th. And then this Wednesday, I will have my next episode of My Legion Adventure, where we will go into, it's a Lex Luthor Superboy story, and I think the only Legionnaire in it is Lightning Lad. It is not one I've read in a long time. I'm finding these very early ones. I'm enjoying it. And then after that, next week I will be discussing doing an overview of Legion of Superheroes with Marty Gray, and which will be a lot of fun because I'm enjoying being forced to only read one of the Legion a week because I don't really read it until I'm about to record it. It's fun doing this reread, and I'm looking forward to talking just Legion in general. But you can also find me at my two Doctor Who podcasts, Gallifrey's Most Wanted or The Runcible Report, and you can find us on Twitter at JSA4E, that's JSA, the number 4E, at Gallifrey's MW Pod or at Runcible Report. And folks, you know what? You all be safe, be good, and read some comics.